Hello everyone. Economic dispatch has two problems: online economic dispatch and unit commitment. Online economic dispatch is distributing the load among the generating units which are connected in the system so as to minimize the total cost. And unit commitment problem is pre-dispatch problem where the generators are selected optimally so as to meet the expected load with a specific reserve capacity. In this video, we can discuss unit commitment in detail. So, unit commitment is pre-dispatch problem and economic dispatch is online cost minimization problem. We know that the load demand keeps on changing. During the daytime and during early evenings, there will be industrial loads and light loads. So the load demand will be high. And during the late evenings and early mornings, the demand will be very low. Similarly, during weekdays, the demand is higher as compared to weekend days. And also in a country like India, the energy requirement during summer season is much more compared to rest of the seasons. So it is not economical to connect all the generators to the bus bar all the time. So during off-peak hours, we can shut down some of the generators so as to minimize the cost. So when there is a decrease in load, the operating engineer should know which generator should be shut down. Also, when there is an increase in load demand, the operating engineer should decide which generator should be brought into the line. So the problem of finding the order in which the units are brought in or shut down over a period of time with minimum operating cost is called unit commitment problem. Or we can say that unit commitment is one way to suggest sufficient number of generating units with sufficient generating capacity to meet the given load economically, also with a sufficient reserve capacity. Reserve capacity is for meeting the abnormal operating condition. Or unit commitment is to commit the generating capacity to obtain reliable and economical supply for a given load. We can consider an example. Suppose a plant is having 3 units. The specifications of the units are given and the cost function is also given. From the cost function, we can say that F1 is the cost function. According to economic load dispatch, the incremental cost should be minimum. When we are taking dou F1 by dou P1, dou F2 by dou P2, dou F3 by dou P3, etc., we can say that first unit will have minimum cost function because the coefficient 0.00141 or F11 is minimum compared to F22 and F33. F33 is 0.0049, that is maximum. So incremental cost of unit 1 is minimum, unit 2 is next and unit 3 is maximum. So it is when the load demand is less than 600 megawatt, that is maximum capacity of unit 1, it is economical to operate unit 1 alone. Then we can select unit 2 up to 600 plus 450, that is 1150 megawatt. We can choose a combination of unit 1 and 2, and above that we can choose the combination of unit 1, 2 and 3. So this table shows the combination up to 500 megawatt and 600 megawatt. The unit 1 is on, other 2 units are off. When it is 700 megawatt, the unit 2 is also switched on, and up to 1000 megawatt, 1500 we can say, the unit 2 is switched on and unit 3 is switched off. When it is 1100 megawatt, unit 3 is also switched on. So if it is the daily load curve, in 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. there is only 500 megawatt. So unit 1 is only required. When it is 1200 megawatt, all the 3 units are required. So we have already discussed constraints in unit commitment or economic load dispatch problem. Some constraints has to be considered while solving the problem of unit commitment. First constraint is spinning reserve constraint. Spinning reserve is actually the total amount of generation available from the units synchronized to the grid minus load demand plus losses supply. So it is the available additional generation after meeting the load demand and losses. That is used as a spinning reserve to meet the emergency load demands or when there is a unit failure. Sometimes there may be some generating units failure. When a generating unit fails, there will be under frequency problems that can be met by using this spinning reserve. Spinning reserve is mainly decided by reliability and economical considerations. Some case the peak demand will be forecasted and some percentage of the peak demand is set as spinning reserve. Some cases large capacity unit is kept, the power of large capacity unit is kept as spinning reserve. That because if that unit fails, that should be met by the spinning reserve. And the one important parameter with spinning reserve is spinning in reserve should spread around the power system. If there is a failure due to transmission network, so that can be met by spinning reserve. So spinning reserve location is also an important parameter. Also islanding operation, that means one part of the system is completely shut down from the supply, that is called islanding operation, that is also met by the spinning reserve. Another consideration is the type of the reserve. There are fast responding unit and slow responding unit. That means the hydroelectric power plants which are fast responding units which can be turned on or switched on and switched off immediately. If it is a thermal power plant, it will take 5 to 6 hours for switching on and switching off. So fast responding and slow responding unit should be there for us spinning reserve, because if there is a sudden change in load demand or then the spinning fast responding unit should act. So both allocation and the location of spinning reserve is important. We can consider an example. There is two grids, northern grid and southern grid. Northern grid is having two units 1, 2, 3 and southern grid is having unit 4 and 5. The capacity of the units are given. The unit capacity of all the units are given and unit output is also given. If 1200 is the capacity and output is 1000, rest of the 200 is kept as spinning reserve. So here 3 units and the regional load is 2200. Total unit output is 2000. So additional 200 unit is taken from the interconnected line from the other grid. And in the southern grid, there is total generation 1320 and load is 1120. So there is a less load of 200 megawatt. So 200 megawatt is given to the other unit. So interchange of megawatt is 200 from southern unit to northern unit. And there is a spinning reserve of 1280 megawatt total for both southern and northern units. If any grid requires some additional amount, this spinning reserve is used. Another constraint is thermal unit constraint. We know that in a thermal power plant, the operating personnel should check the temperature and pressure of the steam before it is switched on or off. There is a minimum uptime. If a unit is in operation and if we want to switch off, it cannot be switched off instantly. It takes some time before it could switch off. This time is called minimum uptime. Similarly, if you want to connect a unit to the grid, it will take a minimum of 4 to 8 hours for connecting to the grid. This is known as minimum downtime. So two constraints are minimum uptime and minimum downtime. Another constraint is crew constraint, that is number of persons. If we have to shut down 2 units at a time, there should be sufficient personnel, operating personnel, to look after that 2 units. So number of persons in the power plant is also important. So thermal unit cannot be considered connected instantaneously to the grid. So there is a startup time, and during this startup time there will be there is fuel input, but it will not produce any electrical energy. So that cost for the fuel input is called startup cost. And startup cost does not depends on the startup cost depends on the initial state of the unit. There are 2 types of startup: cold startup and banking startup. In cold startup, the temperature and pressure of the coal is 0. We have to start from the 0 pressure and temperature, and the startup cost will be maximum. In banking startup, the unit was turned off recently, then there will be some temperature and pressure, and the startup cost will be lower. That is called banking startup cost. So startup cost can be calculated as Fc equal to Fc into 1 minus e raised to t by alpha into F plus Ft. That is for cold startup, where Fc is cold start cost and F is fuel cost. That is related to the power generation, F equal to some Fn and Pn square, like that. And Ft is the fixed cost, that is salary of the operating personnel and maintenance expenses, etc. And alpha is thermal time constant, and T is the time. And similarly, startup cost during banking is Ft into T into F plus Ft, where Ft is cost for maintaining the unit at operating temperature and pressure. So this curve shows cold startup and banking startup costs. Up to certain number of hours, the banking cost is less than cold startup cost. Another constraint is hydro constraint. We know that for a hydel power plant, the installation cost or the capital cost is very high. For thermal power plant, capital cost is low. But when considering the running cost, the hydel power plant have 0 running cost because it uses water, and thermal power plant will have large running cost. So, and also the hydro power plants can be switched on and switched off immediately. It will not take much time for connecting to the grid and turning off. So idle power plant is mainly used as peak load demand, to meet the peak load demand. So when we are considering the unit commitment problem, actually the idle power plants, the idle constraints are not considered, because the startup time, shutdown time and the operating costs are negligible. The main cost is associated with thermal power plants. And when we are using the system with thermal and idle power plants, the idle power plant is mainly set as peak load demand plants, and thermal power plant is set as base plants. Like if it is this cost curve, when we are considering this cost curve, 500 megawatt should be there always. That 500 megawatt is met by the thermal power plant, so that cannot be turned off immediately. And at peak demands, to meet the 1200 megawatt, we can use idle power plants. Then for finding the solution for unit commitment problem, there are mainly three methods. They are priority list method, dynamic programming, and Lagrangian multiplier method. We can discuss these methods in the next part of the video. Thank you.